Hello everyone and welcome to 30 years of Jurassic Park, a celebration of 30 years of our favourite film and a closer look at the actual paleontology of the dinosaurs present in the film thanks to information provided by our friends at Everything Dinosaur. In this episode we'll be taking a closer look at the Velociraptor, arguably the main antagonist present throughout the 1993 film. Let's take a closer look. The Velociraptor is teased very early in the 1993 film when our protagonists visit the paddock the animals are showed in, setting the expectation that these are deadly creatures which need to be contained safely to avoid a massive problem occurring on Isla Nublar. Obviously this is something which is also emphasised by the introduction sequence where Joffrey is killed by a Velociraptor. Later in the film, when the Velociraptors are unleashed, we are treated to several heart-wrenching sequences, including the scene in the kitchen with Lex and Tim, the scene in the power bunker with Sattler, Muldoon and Ray Arnold, and also many other sequences. The Velociraptors truly take on the form of the antagonists in this film, presented as capable and intelligent hunters who will stop at nothing to get to their prey. The Velociraptor we see on screen is an imposing, terrifying sight, but it's very different to how Velociraptor behaved in the real world. We caught up with the team at Everything Dinosaur to learn more about this animal. Of all the dinosaurs featured in the Jurassic Park franchise, it is perhaps the Velociraptor that has become embedded into popular culture the most. This is ironic, as most dinosaur fans and devotees of the films will tell you it is the raptors depicted in the Jurassic Park novel and the movies were based on the North American early Cretaceous Dromaeosaurid Deinonychus. Velociraptor was nothing like its movie alter ego. Firstly, it was very much smaller. The two species of Velociraptor, Velociraptor mongoliensis, which was named and described in 1924, and Velociraptor osmoscale, named in 2008, were around 1.8 meters in length. Most of the body length was made up of the long, stiff tail. These dinosaurs are estimated to have weighed around 10 to 15 kilograms, and they are commonly described as turkey-sized, a term acceptable to most vertebrate paleontologists. Secondly, there is also the question of feathers, or indeed the lack of them. The sandstones associated with the Jakotka and Bayanmanda formations, probably butchered those pronunciations, guys, I apologise, associated with the Velociraptor genus are generally too coarse to permit the preservation of feathers. However, a Dromaeosaurid arm bone, an ulna, tentatively assigned to Velociraptor, has provided evidence of a presence of quill knobs which may have anchored pennaceous feathers. There is a large amount of fossil evidence to indicate that other dromaeosaurids were feathered. It is thought, therefore, that Velociraptor had a coat of feathers too. It was not until 1999 that the first dromaeosaurid fossil specimen with preserved feathers was formally described, Signifosauris millenni. The paper was published after Jurassic Park and its sequel The Lost World were made, although Velociraptor with a feathery, integumentary covering had been postulated for some time. Intriguingly, in Jurassic World Dominion, which was released in 2022, the crimson-coloured Pyroraptor was depicted with a coat of feathers and with more anatomically accurate hands and wrists. The team behind Jurassic Park deserve credit for getting some aspects of Velociraptor anatomy and behaviour right. It was probably an agile social pack animal, and trace fossils of parallel two-toe tracks reported from Shandong province in eastern China suggest that these animals moved around in small flocks. In addition, these tracks and others like them from South Korea and the USA indicate that the second toe of Dromaeosaurids, the one with the enlarged sickle-like claw, was held off the ground. In the films, Velociraptor is depicted as an intelligent, cunning animal with the capacity for complex behaviour and problem solving. There are several research programs currently exploring dinosaur intelligence. Small theropods such as troodontids and dinosaurs like Velociraptor had relatively larger brains for their body size compared to much bigger theropods. The brain volume ratio compared to body mass gave these dinosaurs a higher encephalation quotient, or EQ. Therefore, these types of predators were thought to be smarter. The assumptions underlying the EQ as a measure of cognitive abilities have been challenged in the last few years. Greater emphasis is now placed on the structure of the brain rather than its volume, so the level of intelligence conferred in the movies remains purely speculative. However, there are currently a number of studies in progress examining the cognitive capacities in the Dinosauria, including small theropods. Results from these research programs may reinforce the idea that Velociraptor and its relatives were capable of complex, almost mammalian behaviours such as passing on knowledge to offspring and even rudimentary tool use. Unsurprisingly, the Velociraptor makes its debut in the first wave of Jurassic Park figures, featuring slashing jaws and a colour scheme which isn't too dissimilar to those seen on screen. The animal featured some black highlights and of course included the iconic JP logo, seeing many repaints in subsequent years. Interestingly, however, a Velociraptor hatchling did not appear until the second wave of figures released after 1993. The Velociraptor hatchling was packed with a unique version of Robert Muldoon, featuring olive fatigues. Bringing it full circle, the modern-day Hammond Collection released the Velociraptor as one of its first single-cardback dinosaur figures, giving fans a super articulated JP classic. We were excited to ask Everything Dinosaur about their favourite Velociraptor toys, given that there are so many different models and versions of the Velociraptor out there. In this next bit, we'll chat through some of the ones they chose. As in an earlier episode in this series when Dilophosaurus was discussed, Velociraptor figures tend to be split into two main types. Those models that mirror the Velociraptor as seen in Jurassic Park, and those models that represent, at least in part, the animal known from the fossil record. When it comes to the scaly, non-feathered movie models, many collectors have shown a preference for the Papo-Velociraptor models. They may have several anatomical inaccuracies, but the Papo-Velociraptor, product code 55023, has been in production for a long time, and it is still very popular. Two colour variants were introduced, a green colour variant in 2016 and a blue Papo-Velociraptor a year later. Both these colour variants have now been retired, but 55023 is still going strong and it continues to outsell the Papo feathered Velociraptor figure, the first of which was introduced in 2016 and replaced with a new colour variant in 2020. 8 years before Papo introduced a feathered Velociraptor figure, the German manufacturer Bullyland added a feathered Velociraptor to their prehistoric world range. It has pennaceous feathers on its arms, a long stiff tail, and the skull is elongated, which are all positives, but the teeth are peg-like, and many collectors have criticised the model's unusual pose with the left arm held out and elevated. It may have its detractors and it is far from anatomically accurate, but it has continued to be one of the most popular figures within the Bullyland series. For many collectors, the Rebor brand is synonymous with Velociraptor models. The first Rebor Velociraptor figures were hatching triplets, lock, stock and barrel, and this limited edition set was introduced in 2015. This was quickly followed by the adult Velociraptor Winston and the 1/6 scale Velociraptor hatchling figures. In 2017, leaping Velociraptor figures were added, and a new running raptor version titled Pete. A pair of crouching Velociraptor models were added purporting to represent a male and female, and in 2018 a tiger-striped Velociraptor figure was introduced, Sweeney. All of these figures were popular, even though none of them sported feathers, which was ironic as the reborn Deinonychus trio, the Cerberus clan, released in 2016, were all feathered. The last ever Safari Limited Carnegie Collectibles model was a feathered Velociraptor figure, and its striking plumage was praised. Long retired, this figure was effectively replaced when in 2017 the Safari Limited Wild Safari Velociraptor model was introduced. This is a feathered Velociraptor, and the model is a very bird-like and reasonable representation of the fossil material, as well as being reasonably priced. Collector ventured into the feathered Velociraptor market in 2010 with their 1/6 scale deluxe replica. At around 30 centimeters long, this figure was too large to pose with other collector figures in a diorama, although it did have an uptick in popularity with the introduction of the Collector Deluxe 1/6 scale Protoceratops in 2020. The Creative Beast range of articulated figures includes Velociraptors. The articulation, coupled with the inclusion of display bases and stands, has allowed collectors to display figures in dynamic poses. The Beast of the Mesozoic range has been highly praised, and it deserves mentioning, but for the moment there is a lack of high quality, anatomically accurate, appropriately sized Velociraptors in the model collecting market. We hope you have enjoyed a closer look at the Velociraptor, an animal which is as smart as it is scary. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this episode, and come back the same time next week where we will air the season finale, a deep dive into the terrifying Tyrannosaurus Rex. Massive thanks to Everything Dinosaur for supporting this series. Make sure to check out their website at www.everythingdinosaur.com.